Okay, I'm actually quite excited to make this video. I think it's going to be kind of fun because it's actually just not scripted at all. Like, I think it's just going to be straight off the dome. Anyway, I hope everyone had a really nice Christmas, and to sort of celebrate New Year's, I feel like I'd make a video just sort of off the top of my head and looking at basically previous comments of works I've done, and I'm going to be calling this Jake's Hot Takes. Even though the majority probably aren't even going to be hot, because I probably agree with everyone. Everyone's just so nice in the comment section. But essentially I'll be looking at people's comments from previous videos and just giving my opinion on them, seeing where they stand, and yeah, just overall, you know, have a bit of a connection, kind of like a Q&A, but not really. But yeah, let's just go for it. So going back to my Studio Ghibli video, okay guys, I'm an idiot. I called it Ghibli again. It's Ghibli. I do clock it later on in the video, but it does slip out now and again. I don't know why I do it. It just happens. Don't worry about it. One of the comments actually said, I enjoyed Earwig and the Witch. It's not a masterpiece by any means, but I still watched it multiple times and enjoyed it each time. And that's a completely fair take. See, I didn't hate it. I actually really didn't hate Earwig and the Witch. I didn't mind it. I think the common preconception and the sort of reason I made that video in the first place was to compare Goro to Hayao and where he stood in terms of the legacy of Studio Ghibli. And I think the sort of common conception is it just didn't hold up, you know, it didn't hold up to Ghibli standards, and that's what I was going for. But in terms of a standalone film, it's not terrible, and a lot of people might think it's terrible, but like, even comparing it, the thing is, I've seen some really bad films. I'm talking bottom of the barrel shit films, like, and maybe I should make a video on some of those. But it's like, it is actually genuinely a fine film. You know, if I had kids, I'd be fine with them watching it. It's inoffensive. The animation is questionable, but the story is fine. It is just fine, you know? It's a fine film, and if you like it, then fair enough. So Alan6797 said... I don't really know what you're saying, Alan, but I do appreciate it. Imagine he's just calling me a dickhead. Thank you very much. I'm sure it's very nice. I translated it to English and I still don't understand what it means, but I do appreciate it. So here's a bit of a counter comment. Half the reason I didn't watch Earwig was because it looked awful. The CGI Rona show was a truer 3D animation of the Ghibli style. I said it again. Ghibli. I don't know why I keep saying Ghibli. The other half was that reviews for the story were just bad, and I feel like everything was just bad, starting with Ponyo. Ponyo's good, right? I think it's okay. It's not the best. It's cute. Good for kids. But I definitely do agree with this. Ronya, the robber's daughter, I think it's called. Another CGI film made by Goro Miyazaki, and I think it stood up a lot better than Earwig did. So that's, again, you know, it is a truer adaptation. I think that it's a tricky thing because with the Ghibli style, it's very hard to translate to 3D animation. It just is. Like, it's a traditional 2D, and the priority is carrying over the story beats, you know, the sort of themes that Hayao really tries to present to us. And a lot of it is very beautiful. It looks into youth and things like that. And so, yeah, I think Ponyo does a better job than Earwig does. But to say you didn't watch it because it looked awful, that's fair. You know, it's not the worst story, but there are definitely some worse looking things that are actually better stories, and then it's vice versa. There could be, you know, worse stories with better looking things, and that's just how it is. I think the problem with Ghibli is that they didn't invest in building up a new generation of artists that could take over when the old guard leaves. And when Miyazaki eventually passes, Ghibli may just be gone. It's a shame. And there was a lot of comments very similar to this, and this is exactly true. And that's when I sort of talked about the end of the video about Ghibli's legacy, you know, what Hayao really wants to build, and who's going to take over. You know, will it be Goro? A lot of people don't want it to be. I want to see Goro improve, but I don't think he will take over either. I just don't think he has that sort of... The thing, storytelling is such an innate skill. It's a natural ability, and it comes to some better than it comes to others. And people aren't just resonating with Goro's stuff as well as they're resonating with Miyazaki's. So whoever will take it over, we don't know, because it is a production house. It's a studio, you know, and Hayao, and you've got Takata, who established this amazing studio. And so having people take it over, it's a tricky decision, because I want Hayao to be the one who approves it. Like, I want them to carry on Hayao's legacy in a way that he would want, and I want that to be dictated by the people. There needs to be people. If this new sort of legacy of creators are going to make stuff in the Ghibli name after Miyazaki is gone, I want the people, the public, the viewers, to tell them, is this good or not, and for them to work off that. I think it could be really good to establish a relationship with us, because no one wants to see the Miyazaki name tarnished. No one wants it to turn into some sort of Disney recycling scheme. They want it to be original stories, but maintain that Ghibli beauty. Ghibli, fuck me. Why? I don't get why. Why does this happen? I really liked Miyazaki's last film, The Wind Rises. I think it's extremely underrated, and I put it up there with Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke. I would agree. I love Wind Rises. I think it's a brilliant film. It's a tricky thing. Everyone has their own sort of preference in terms of Ghibli. I, for one, this is going to be probably a very unpopular opinion, but I don't really like Howl's Moving Castle that much. I know probably people are going to probably be really pissed off with that. I just don't think it is that good as a story. I think there are some weird choices, and I found it a bit pandering, but it's whatever, that's just how I feel about it. But I love Princess Mononoke. That's definitely my favourite Ghibli film. I love My Neighbor Totoro a lot, probably too much. But yeah, I would 100% agree. I think The Wind Rises is probably one of the lesser known Ghibli films, but yeah, underrated, 100%. So here's a comment for my Blue Period video. I think out of all the videos I've made, this one is probably my favourite. I think this was very personal to me, and the effect Blue Period had on me is wow. It's I've been enlightened. But I have many thoughts on this show. It's in my top 10 for sure. But one thing I want to mention in the comment is how it all came full circle at the end. I'm still watching the video. I do appreciate people saying that. It's people will make comments halfway through, and it's oh, okay, I'm missing it. But I do appreciate you saying that. But remember the girl who our protagonist admired at the start, the one who kick-started the inspiration to paint? By the end of the show, she's actually seen admiring his work without even knowing it was his. And that whole bit really resonated with me as an animation student myself. I see this happen many times when admiring amateur becomes the admired, and it's such a positive and supportive and heartwarming atmosphere when those moments do happen. And this is my favourite aspect about this video, was the fact that it was very personal, not only to me, but it resonated with a lot of people, because when it comes to art and the creation of art, the great majority of artists, no matter what you do, filmmaker, photographer, painter, whatever, you do feel a bit shit. You do feel lesser than a lot of people when you see other people's work and how amazing they are, and you look at them for inspiration. You're like, I want to get to that point, and I want to find my own voice in that regard. And this is a beautiful comment, because it basically goes into the fact that the story tells this arc amazingly, how the admirer becomes the admired. An amazing thing about Blue Period I love. I think this video is on my Makoto Shinkai video, but you've talked about style and narrative, and there's a bit to say about themes. I swear all I do in this channel is talk about themes. He started out, at least in his feature films, doing sci-fi, did a couple of regular life films with a fantasy one sandwiched in the middle, and what made several what-if fantasy-style films set in the present day. So these are more genres, not specifically themes, but 100% it's important, and I talked about this a little bit in my Satoshi Kon video. It's really important for an artist to transcend what is sort of known of them. If you're doing a certain thing, it's always good to switch it up and change genres, because you're going to build a foundation. You need to know how to tell a story first, and once you've been able to do that, and once you've found your own voice, you can allow that to transcend different genres, tackle different characters, tackle all these different things. I think I used Jordan Peele as an example, where he just went from comedy to horror, and of course Satoshi Kon, who went from psychological to funny to psychological to baseball bats, and but yeah, 100%, it's a really important thing. If something is great, why change it? Yeah. Studio Ghibli Plus, I would pay for that every month. I fully agree with this. There's been talks about them collaborating with LucasArts, which I think is a fantastic thing. It's a good direction, because I do want there to be a streaming service for Ghibli, because that's how the world is going at the moment. Everything is, Netflix, Disney Plus, streaming services. Theatrical releases don't hit the same anymore, which is a massive shame, because, well, unless it's your a Marvel film, they just don't do as well as they used to. I say that, and Avatar 2 came out and that banged, but that's Avatar. But it's going back to sort of my previous statement of Hayao Miyazaki and his standards. He's a very old school, traditional filmmaker. I mean, he's in his 80s. This whole streaming platform thing, it's probably a bit far-fetched for him. He's very used to theatrical releases and then releasing it onto Blu-ray, DVD. Again, it needs to be up to his standard. It needs to be his choice whether, they get distributed and be made streamable on these services. If it goes to a legacy factor of who takes over Studio Ghibli, and if Hayao passes away, there's not enough content on Ghibli by itself to be streamed. There needs to be extra stuff, there needs to be more stuff made. And so if Ghibli expanded in that fact, if people made shorts, or kind of like what Disney is doing. I mean, they own so much stuff, so it's easy for them to distribute things, because they own so much content. But Ghibli doesn't. They're just an independent studio who makes amazing films, and so it's good for Ghibli to collaborate with LucasArts so that they can sort of have a larger quantity. They've got the quality, but they need the quantity of content to push out to audiences. And so, yeah, they just need to collaborate. 100%. It just needs to stick to Hayao's vision, It needs to stick to his vision, and content made for Ghibli should hold up to that. It should be as good as it always used to be. Just maintain 2D animation and you're good, Good 2D, good stories, yes. So this is for my Junji Ito video. One thing everyone just misses with Ito is that, yes, he does horror, but he also does tragedy, 100%. His stories are just as much a tragedy genre as they are horror, and this is important because horror is not inherently a subgenre of tragedy. Sometimes they are deeply separate. Exactly, when it comes to genre, it's tricky with horror because a lot of horrors are just made for the sake of being scary, and I don't really like that. I like there to be a bit of substance in my stories. I think my whole channel is kind of based on just iconography and what's involved with things. And I'm trying to transcend that myself. I mean, you don't want it to be just one thing, it needs to be multi-dimensional. And that's where Junji Ito is so strong, because he takes in tragedy themes, You see his characters and his protagonists and they have a terrible, terrible time. But it really works, and it resonates with you more than just having something disturbing for the sake of it just being disturbing. There's a genuine philosophy behind Ito's work, and it's really good. I love Junji Ito because he can make regular day things into terrifying stuff, like when he made a cat, and Uzumaki when he made spirals. Of course, too many spirals. The only other thing that makes spirals scary is maybe the Smiler at Alton Towers. But yeah, 100%. I mean, Ito just has this amazing skill of taking things around us and just making them horrible, and I don't know how he does it. There's a real art. One of my favourite stories is it's when the grandpa basically has all the scalps attached to his head of the generations of basically the families before him. He has all his heads just attached to him, and when I saw that I was like, oh my god, because it's such a simple concept and yet he's made it horrifying. But yeah, great comment. I definitely agree that Ito's work has gotten more mainstream traction in the West because of the huge shift in the horror genre. Horror in the 90s to 2000s were really about being cheap thrill. Yeah, it's what I mentioned before, it's sort of for the sake of it being scary. Entertaining, but not something you can consider artistic or cinematic, 100%. Nothing held onto psyche and keeps you thinking. And there is more of a shift towards horror with an identity, a message, aesthetic appeal, creative perspective. Yes, yes, yes. I love this because this is becoming the big thing now. A lot of horror films genuinely have a message behind them. They have an identity behind them. Junji Ito carries this. So many other creators are doing this. It's brilliant. I think it's such a great thing. We're sort of going back to our roots and traditional filmmaking, traditional animation, everything. It had a point. And then we just reached a moment where we stopped doing things for a reason. We just did it because... Jump scare. Great video essay. Thank you. I don't consider myself like an essayist, I just like talking about stuff, which I guess is what it is, but you know, I mix it up. I do mix it up. Great video! Oh my god, I love this comment. It was so cute when I fucking read it. It's so sweet. Great video. I'm from Chile, and even here Miyazaki is a legend. I'm 42 years old, and man, I grew up watching his films, and I think I'm still not ready for him to retire completely. Sad face. Oh, this was like one. I'm like, I love this comment so much. It was so sweet because it's like, oh my god, this is one of like the bigger videos I've ever made, and like this gentleman from Chile watched it and he liked it, and that's just like really sweet. I just wanted to include that because yeah, it was very special to me. It really moved me, and yeah, thank you. I wanted to turn everyone's attention, not only tell me. Oh, is that just? Okay, I'm not gonna read that because I'm not gonna suck myself off. But thank you. There will never be another animation studio like Ghibli, and there will never be another man like Hayao Miyazaki. I'm really looking forward to How Do You Live, and I hope it's not the last we see of him, but if it is, he'll leave behind a beautiful legacy, achieving what no other storyteller truly achieved. His movies will continue to transcend time and change how generations see the world. Yeah. That's my answer to that comment. Yes. It's true. You know, he's an incredible individual. He's left, like, you can't dispute that he doesn't have a lasting legacy. He's changed the game, you know. I put Miyazaki into that sort of group of really special people, really special filmmakers that changed the game. You know, you've got people like Satoshi Kon and a lot of these Japanese filmmakers, and there's Western ones too, you know, people that are just, there's something about them that just resonates, you know, there's something about them that can last forever, and I consider these people auteurs, you know, master filmmakers, some people that can just live forever. Studio Ghibli has impacted my way of seeing life immensely, especially Princess Mononoke. Yeah, a beautiful film. For me, no film was past that movie. Ghibli is like a homemade food without lots of love, whilst Disney feels like fast food. I loved this analogy. Really, really good analogy, because it's true. I feel like Disney is pumping out content for the sake of quantity, and you know, quality is not quite there anymore. Some things it is. I love, like Black Panther 2 was like a hidden gem, really good. Some bits were not so good, but most of it was decent. But you've got like all these other series, and storytelling wise, it ain't it. Like I really kind of stopped watching like Marvel stuff and Disney stuff like after Endgame. But Disney films I do still continue to watch if they're like good animations. Like 100% I support like the animation teams, and they're still smashing it. I mean, I watched like Encanto, and Encanto was brilliant. I loved the soundtrack, everything. Like I still support Disney. It's not like this channel is to rag on them. I do like them. I think it's just Marvel that pisses me off. But yeah, it's a really good analogy because Ghibli, fuck me. I need like a taser. I need like an electric collar. Every time I say Ghibli, it just zaps me. But yeah, I think it's a really good analogy. You totally skipped Ronya the Robber's Daughter series. Yes, I did. I didn't mention it because there was a lot of stuff in that video that I just sort of... I was worried it would get too long because that was sort of one of the earlier videos I made, but nowadays I have like an actual word count. It looks a lot better and Ghibli-like than Earwig, and he mentions the script isn't, you know, all there, but it's still decent. But yeah, 100%, like, I think Earwig and the Witch was just this weird anomaly, and this is why I don't count Goro out, because he has made decent stuff, and he does have potential. I would never count Goro out, sometimes he hits and sometimes he doesn't. But this is a good comment because it's a little factor I did miss out. But yeah, it's good to bring that to light, and people should check this out because, again, Goro should be appreciated a little bit. You know, maybe not as much as his dad, but don't count him out. I think he's a good guy. Anyway, this will be the last one, but this is interesting. So Earwig and the Red Turtle are two Ghibli movies I'll probably never see. You know, to each their own. Fair enough. And I said, oh awesome, you know, I don't blame you for the avoidance, and you know, that's just because everyone's entitled to their own opinion and you don't need to watch stuff. You just, you know, just watch what you want. And he said, so what would be the best 3D animated movie? The Secret, Life of Pets, Hotel Transylvania, Wreck-It Ralph? And I said the Little Panda Fighter for sure. I'm such a dickhead. If you've never seen Little Panda Fighter, it's a fucking godsend. I'm actually such a prick. But no, honestly, I don't think I have a favourite 3D movie. So many of them are good. I know what my favourite 2D movie is, and I want to make a separate video. And this comment down here is, The Red Turtle is actually very well done and moving, in my opinion. I know that being a collaboration with French studios might be perceived as a downside, but it has nothing to do with that bullshit Earwig is. do never, like I. Very good comment. Do not ever look down on the French. And I'm not just talking about Mbappe or their dickhead referee. I'm talking about French distributed films are very interesting. But yeah, I replied, I do agree that The Red Turtle is an underrated gem. I think it is, decent. It's a strong film. I wouldn't ever relate it to Earwig. It just doesn't. It's not the same vibe. But when it comes to the French distributed films, if you haven't seen Summit of the Gods, like, this is for anyone watching, if you haven't seen Summit of the Gods, watch Summit of the Gods. It's so good. It's amazing. It's one of the most intense, like, thriller, crazy, emotional rides, and it's French distributed. In fact, I think it was distributed by the same distributors that did Red Turtle. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's the same. And it's, like, unreal. It's a manga adaptation, and the French studios took it on, and they...
up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, well, I don't wanna jinx it, baby, and twist myself at the spine. Don't wanna overthink it, baby. It's just twist.